Whelps to Wyrms is a 2 to 5 player game, 6 if you have the Kickstarter edition, for ages 8 and up, with an average gameplay length of 45 to 90 minutes. Originally published by Lamplight Games, but given a second chance at life by our sponsor for today's video, SpyGlass Games. The basic overview for Whelps to Wyrms has you, as a fresh from the egg whelp, attempt to gain experience to grow into a full-grown worm. You do this by exploring the land, hoarding treasure, and yes, of course, eating livestock and the occasional human. But beware of the slayers who attempt to wound you. By completing objectives, you will gain extra gold, and once the objective deck is empty, the player with the largest hoard of gold is the winner. To set up the game, each player will start by selecting a dragon board. Once selected, collect the 20 matching dragon cubes, 3 matching dragon dice, and of course the matching whelp, drake, and worm forms of the standees with a single base. Also, if you selected the white dragon, collect the 5 ice palace cards, or if the purple dragon was chosen, collect all 5 cave layer cards. Place 2 dragon cubes below your dragon board to use as action tokens, and place your whelp dragon on a standee. Next, prepare the improvement deck by separating them by type. You have the forest, mountain, and plains. Shuffle each individually and set them off to the side for now. Next, shuffle all terrain tiles together, face down, except for the nest tile. Once shuffled, place the stack near the improvement cards. In the center of the table, place the nest tile with every player's dragon whelp on top of it. Then draw terrain tiles up to the number of players plus 1 additional tile. At random, place them face up around the nest tile with the edges touching. Next, for each terrain tile placed, draw the corresponding improvement card to place upon them. No cards are placed on lake tiles, and avoid placing lair, famine, or fort cards for the setup. Just shuffle those back into their decks and draw a new card. Bandit camps will hold the number of gold listed here. Cow and sheep farms will have their type shown here and the number of that type to be placed. And the merchant cards will hold a single merchant meeple. Once you have prepared the tiles, prepare the Slayer deck. For a standard game, set aside the White Wizard and shuffle the Epic Slayers together. Then shuffle the Basic Slayers and place 4 Basic Slayers atop the Epic Slayers deck and return the rest of the Basic Slayer cards to the box. To adjust the difficulty, you can add or remove Basic Slayers from the deck. Next, prepare the objective deck. Set aside all objective cards with stars on them. Those will be used at the end of the game. Next, shuffle the objective cards, and you will use 9 cards plus the number of players to create the objective deck. Then draw cards equal to the number of players and place them face up next to the objective deck. Finally, select a first player at random and give that player the first player marker. And with that, you are ready to begin. The game plays over a series of phases. The first round's ready phase was taken care of during the setup for this round. But at the start of other rounds, during this phase, you will draw an objective card from the objective deck and add it to the objectives that are currently up for grabs. You will populate each bandit camp with the required gold and farms with the number of sheep or cows. Remember never to exceed the level number of these cards. Next, move on to the second phase, the action phase. Starting with the first player and going clockwise, players will take their turns. First, let's take a look at the player board to know what we can do throughout the game. Starting from the bottom left, you have the action locations. Each takes a single action cube except for the raise action, which requires 2. Next to that is your dragon's stomach. It shows you how much experience each type of food provides if discarded from your stomach. Sheep are worth 1 experience cube, cows are worth 2, and any type of human is worth 3 experience cubes. and to the right of that is where you would place any raised improvement cards. Above these locations, you have the row of skills each level of dragon can have and use once acquired. On level 1, which is the whelp row, starting from the left to the right, you have the number of experience cubes to evolve, which is 0 since you start off as a whelp, the number of movement you have, and the maximum number of action cubes you are allotted each round as a whelp. Next to that, you have the number of attack dice you may roll when attacking or defending against an attack. And just under, you have the dragon's level 1 skills that can be acquired. Some with a colored background are passive, and those with no background, which need the skill action to activate. Level 2 will require 4 experience cubes to evolve to a drake, and you will gain an extra movement and an additional action cube. And level 3 evolves to a worm requiring 8 experience cubes, and you gain an additional movement and a third attack die. However, when attacking, you must discard the lowest die and only count the other 2 dice. Also, the first player to evolve into a worm will collect the star objective card that says First to Worm. Before taking any actions, you have the option to remove any wounds you have by spending a single gold per action space. Each gold spent will let you remove all wounds on that action space, and you may spend additional gold to remove wounds from other action spaces. Note, if a wound is on an action during your turn, you are not allowed to take that action. After any and all wounds are removed, you may perform your actions. You have a range of actions you may perform using your action cubes, and a few free actions that may be taken anytime during your turn. Let's start with the free actions. You may move. The number of locations available are determined by your level, but you cannot end your movement on a lake tile unless you are the white dragon with the Ice Palace skill. Another free action is buying skills. Each skill cost is equal to the level of dragon. Level 1 whelp skills cost 1 experience cube. Level 2 drake skills cost 2 experience cubes. And level 3 worm skills cost 3 experience cube each. And in order to get a higher level skill, you must be the level of the dragon and have the prerequisite skills directly below the skill you wish to purchase. Once purchased, put one of your dragon tokens that are not one of your action tokens onto the location available on your player board. Another free action you have is to increase the maturity level by spending the required experience cubes. If a whelp, you may spend 4 experience cubes to evolve to a drake, or if you're already a drake, you may spend 8 experience cubes to evolve into a worm. When doing this, collect your dragon standee and swap it out for the new dragon which you evolved to, and return it to its previous location. And the final free action is to collect any revealed objective cards that you may have completed and set them to the side of your player board. Now, as for the actions that require an action cube, you have attack, eat, search, explore, raise, and skill. When using one of these actions, you must place a cube on top of the action, unless it is raise, which requires 2 cubes. The attack action can be used against a slayer, another dragon, or a dragon's lair card that is on the same tile that you are on. Performing this action will gain you 1 experience cube. When attacking a slayer, if your combat roll is equal to or greater than the slayer's strength, the slayer loses, and you will gain the gold listed on the slayer card, as well as a slayer meeple to your belly. If you roll less than the slayer, you automatically take a wound. To take the wound, you will roll a die, and whatever number is shown, place a wound token on the action that matches what was rolled. If attacking a dragon lair with no dragon on it, you can swap out the other dragon's token for one of your own. If a dragon is in the lair, or if you wish to attack a dragon directly, both players will roll attack dice. The player with the highest total wins the fight, whereas the loser will receive a wound. One thing to look out for is if a dragon enters combat with a wound on their attack action, they are automatically considered a loser because they cannot attack. The next action that can be taken is the eat action. This allows you to eat a single sheep, cow, or merchant on the same tile you are on. Whatever you eat will be collected and placed into your belly. At any time, you may discard anything in your belly for experience cubes. A sheep is worth 1 experience cube, a cow is worth 2 experience cubes, and a human is worth 3 experience cubes. Also, if you eat a merchant, collect 3 gold and remove the merchant card from the game. The next action is search, which can be used on an empty tile you are on. You will draw an improvement card that matches the tile you are on. You will gain 1 experience cube for this action. You will place the card on the tile and populate it. Bandit camps are populated with the amount of gold based on their level. Farms are populated with animal types and the number of animals based on the farm's level. Famine cards are not populated, but do require all adjacent tiles to discard all sheep and cows from them. And if any dragons are on or adjacent to the tile, they immediately lose 1 sheep or cow from their belly if they have any. If a fort card is drawn, immediately draw a slayer card and place the matching standee on this tile. The merchant stand will have you place a merchant meeple onto it, and the layer card will allow you to place 1 of your dragon cubes on it. And finally, you have the ruin cards that will have nothing placed on them. The explore action has you draw a terrain tile and place it on an empty space adjacent to your dragon. The tile must either touch the nest tile or 2 terrain tiles. This action allows you to gain a single experience cubes and expands the size of the map. The raze action requires 2 action tokens. To raze a location, you must first be on the tile. The rewards gained from razing are as followed. The bandit camp improvement will not be removed, but you will gain all gold on it. Please note, if you enter a bandit camp at any time, you must take a wound. If razing a farm, you will gain 1 gold and discard all animals on the farm. But you will get to collect the improvement card and place it next to your player board. If razing a fort, you will gain 3 gold and collect the improvement card. And if you raze a ruins, you will gain 1 gold, 2 experience cubes, and you will collect the improvement card. Unfortunately, famine and merchant stands cannot be razed. The final action option is the skill action. This action allows you to use a skill you have already purchased and resolve its effect. Remember, any skill with a background you already purchased are considered passive and activate whenever you do the action it describes. The skills without a background require the skill action to activate. Once all players have taken their turns, the action phase will end and the Slayer phase will begin. You will skip the Slayer phase in the first round, but starting with the second round, the player with the first player marker will draw the topmost Slayer from the Slayer deck and place them face up in front of them. Collect the matching standee and roll a die. Depending upon the result, you will look at the nest tile and find the matching number. Then place the Slayer on the furthest tile in a straight line with the matching number. They cannot be placed on a lake tile, and if there is no tile they can be placed on, then they must be placed on the nest tile itself. Starting with the first player, activate a single available Slayer. They will move the Slayer that is in front of them wherever they would like up to 2 tiles, avoiding lake tiles. If a Slayer enters a space with a dragon, immediately stops moving and enters into combat with the dragon. If multiple dragons, you may choose which dragon to attack. If the player's dragon who is in the combat wins, the Slayer is discarded. They collect a meeple for their belly and any gold listed on the Slayer card, and move on to the next player with an active Slayer. If the Slayer wins combat, or does not enter combat with a dragon, the Slayer card will be flipped face down to show that it's taken its turn. Once all Slayers have activated, move on to the last phase. The cleanup phase has you distributing 2 gold for each owned layer to the dragons who own them. Each player will return all action cubes to below their player board. Then you will discard any famine improvement cards and flip all Slayer cards face up again. You will then pass the first player marker clockwise to the next player. And finally, check if the objective deck is empty. If not, move on to the next round, starting with the ready phase. If it is empty though, the game ends and final scoring will begin. When the game ends, you will distribute the end of game objectives that have a star. These will be the most improvement raised, most sheep currently in belly, most cows currently in belly, and most humans currently in belly. Once all objectives are distributed, you will add together your gold collected and the total gold bonuses from the objective cards you've collected throughout the game. And the player with the largest hoard of gold wins. If tied for the largest hoard of gold, the player with the most objective cards wins. And if still tied, the player with the most experience, including spent experience on evolving and skills, wins. A couple things to note. Some Slayers have abilities that are described on their card. There is also poison damage that can occur throughout the game. When poisoned, collect a poison wound, and at the beginning of your turn, you may discard it for a gold, just like you would a wound. If you do not remove it, you will roll a die and place a normal wound on the result. Poison will stick with you until you remove it, and you will have to roll for a wound each turn until it is removed. And that is how you play Whelps to Wyrms. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified about new videos. If you're bored now, click this for more games.